agreed to.
Welcome back to the Best of Investing. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with my co-host Mark Hanf of Pacific Private Money and Brian Burke of Praxis Capital. When we cut to the first commercial break, we asked this first trivia question. What 1980s movie starred Tom Cruise as Maverick and had other guys with nicknames such as Goose and Iceman? And Tom, I know you were just itching to answer this through the commercial break. What's the answer?
Well, and I know I'm not eligible for the vacation.
That's okay, you answered anyway.
But it was Top Gun.
It was Top Gun. Very good.
Right.
And we also have in the studio here Tom McGraw, who is the CEO of First National Bank of Northern California. And Brian, I know that you want to ask him a question.
Yeah, in our business at Praxis Capital, we're a private equity firm, and one of our funds buys, fixes, and resells single-family real estate. And a very common question that we get a lot from people is, do you have trouble selling the houses? Because how does anybody get a loan? So there seems to be a real perception out there that there's a complete lack of credit availability. And I'm wondering if that's really true.
I think the difference, Brian, is that historically over the last 4 or 5 years, people were able to get money at 100% loan to value. They all they had to do was show that they had an active EKG to qualify. And so people were used to just simply saying, I need the money and getting it. Well, for a community bank like ours, we have very conservative underwriting standards. And what I mean by that is, if a borrower applies to us, we have to see 3 years tax returns. We need to see CPA audited financial statements. We have to do a global cash flow analysis. So not only are we worried about you being able to pay back the note we hold on your building, but if you have other investments that you have monthly payments on, will you, if rates go up 1 percentage point or 2, would you still be able to make those payments on your other properties, and how would that impact the borrowing that you've done with us? Once we've done all that and we've done the rate shocks and so forth, we will then consider the loan. A lot of people come in and say, well, gee, my last bank didn't do that. And I said, well, who was your last bank? And they said, well, they're not around anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
They're out of business.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I do think that credit is harder given the atmosphere that we've been through for the last 4 to 5 years. But as we were also talking before we started the program, I read a recent update from one of the banking dailies that I get, saying that there's a trend afoot in the mortgage industry that is somewhat revolutionary. They're going to require 20% down on the purchase of a house. Well, I don't know about you guys, but I have never paid anything less than 20% to get into a house.
Also, there's mortgage insurance, is where the rule was.
Right, exactly. In case you defaulted, you had insurance that would cover it. So I do think it is harder, but you have to look at the frame of reference, and the frame of reference that we're looking at now has been the last 4 or 5 years. If we look at the last 20 years, then I wouldn't say that it's necessarily any harder than it was, during that period.
You just have to grade it on a curve.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Hey, Tom, I was shocked by an article I saw in the Chronicle business section Friday morning, which it was an article about Wells Fargo, which was really about their profitability. But what I found shocking is they're now making 1 out of 4 home loans.
Right, and it just...
I mean, is that good for the industry? Sorry to interrupt, but
No.
that just seems astounding to me.
Well, I think it's not so much that it's not good or it is good for the industry as much as what's it for the consumer.
Right.
Yeah, what's in it for the consumer? The problem from my vantage point is in 1988, when I first joined First National Bank of Northern California, there were 14,500 commercial banks. Today, there are 6,500 commercial
Where
banks.
they all go.
Consolidation, it's like March Madness when you have those brackets.
Yeah, that's right.
It's exactly what happens is one gobbles one up, and it's almost economic Darwinism. And so what's happening is fewer and fewer choices the customer has. So I think when there's a concentration of business into one business entity, that's not a good thing because it's not healthy competition.
But I gotta ask a question though on that with regard to the Wells Fargo. Is it because they have very competitive rates, right? And that's why people are flocking to them? Or are they, quote, the only game in town? Yeah, almost the only game in town, you know what I mean? There may be a specific reason for that. Maybe they're just I mean, I've had it in my own house.
The independent mortgage brokers, I mean, they've largely been wiped out. I mean, that whole landscape is littered with guys that have all joined up with banks like Wells Fargo.
Yeah, well, do you have a lot of independent brokers bring you deals?
We do. We've actually started a mortgage business recently because one of the questions earlier was with respect to the regulators. A lot of our lending is based on commercial real estate as collateral and as product. The regulators told us that commercial real estate is evil. It's bad, so we want you to stop.
But profitable.
And live.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
For you guys, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
For us, it's the Antichrist. So what we've had to do is we've had to drop our concentration levels from roughly 600% of capital down to 300%. Well, now what do we do with that other 300%? Well, we've started a mortgage department, and what we're doing is conventional lending. We do hybrids, and I want to qualify that because people, hybrids, oh my God, it's subprime. No, it's not. We do 5, 7, and 10s that are fully amortized over 30 years, but they're due in 5, 7, or 10 with a balloon. We have a lot of sophisticated investors, much like you gentlemen, who may...
Notice how you didn't point to me, you just pointed to you guys. That's okay, go ahead.
But you're wearing short pants now.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
why
well,
I was a
that's
little
hot
concerned.
here, right?
But in any event, so those are sophisticated investors who know that they're going to hold the property for maybe 3 or 4 or 5 years. So they're going to turn it over. So they don't. It's easier for them to take out a quick loan. They get it appraised. They get it funded. They get it done promptly. We also are portfolioing those. We are not selling them in the secondary market. So we're using that as a compensation for a lot of the money that we lost that we invested in commercial real estate.
Which, by the way, means that there not going to be any robo-signing because they'll know exactly who holds the
They
line.
know exactly who's there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Well, wouldn't you think that this is the safest time to be getting into the mortgage business? With the resetting of real estate values, there's a lot less downside risk than it would have been if you would have gotten into that business at the peak of the market.
Yeah, no, I would agree, and I think it's an excellent time to be in the market for purchasing. If you have capital, if you have cash and you're able to purchase the
At least 20% down.
values,
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
the values have dropped so significantly that it makes investing in real estate now a very attractive
And rents are
time.
climbing at the same time.
Precisely, and I think we're, oh, I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
just let me finish this comment, only take 45 minutes.
Yeah.
That we are so unique in the Bay Area, and particularly in San Francisco, it's landlocked. They aren't making any more land. And so the demand to live here is so high, and the available space is so limited, that it will certainly adjust. It has its peaks and valleys, but it will continue to appreciate over time. And if you look at it in the long run, in my view, it's a very safe and sound investment if you're in it for the long term.
Well, I would think also if you're starting a mortgage business that your rates are probably going to be fairly competitive.
Yes, absolutely.
Do you happen to know off the top of your head?
Well, I don't have the rate sheet in front of me, and of course, you know, our
Well, the CEO,
compliance
you're supposed to
person-
know this, like, right off the top of your
yeah,
head.
the compliance gal that works for us is a, you know, she says, don't you ever quote any rates. You know, she said you have to do full disclosure if you're gonna make any quotes, but it's true, we are very competitive, we have to be, but at the same time, you know, it costs us 5% to open the doors. So are we gonna make any loans less than 5%? No, if we wanna stay in business, we can't. So we have a cutoff, we have a number, you know, years ago, well, not years ago, 3, 4, 5 years ago, we were competing against conduit money, insurance money, GMAC.
Right, which was the cheapest at that time.
Absolutely,
Right.
and you know, they could afford because they were volume lenders. We can't compete with that, so we just said, hey, you know, on some commercial real estate deals, people would bring us a project, and they say, well, GMAC will give me 3%, and we said, you know what? Go to GMAC.
Well, as history would show, it didn't work out so well for those guys either.
Yeah, this is true, but they had the economies of scale where they could lend at those kinds of rates.
Yeah.
A community bank like ours, we're losing money.
You can't just go to the federal government and just tell them to print more money for you, huh?
Well, you know, the interesting thing is, I had someone talk to me from the government, this SBLF money, Small Business Lending Fund, they give you a benchmark. And if you are able to exceed that benchmark by a certain percentage, your interest rate drops from 5% to 4%. If you then exceed another benchmark, it drops from 4% to 3%. You can actually get it to 1%.
That sounds, but that's for you though, the bank.
Correct.
Okay. I want to know how I can borrow 1%.
I want 1%.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll
that
we'll
sounds
talk
good.
about that when we come back from the second commercial break. All right, ready for this one? Okay, here we're going to cut to the second commercial break, and here is our 1980s film question. In what 1980s film might you hear the phrase, "Who you gonna call"? Remember that? Okay. Hint. I gotta give a hint because not everybody can remember these movies. All
Oh,
right.
come on.
Okay,
I
ready? A
remember.
large Stay Puft marshmallow appears in the film, if you remember it. The first 3 callers with the correct answer win a free 3-day, 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort. Again, their website is lighthouse4fun.com. Call 888-912-1190. That's 888-912-1190 to answer this question. Name the 1980s film in which you might hear the phrase, "Who you gonna call?" That's not too bad, is it? Okay. Hint, a large Stay Puft marshmallow appears in the film. Call 888-912-1190. Make sure when you call that number to give us your name, address, email address, and phone number, and we will be right back.
Got it.
Good.